crazy sea stories.
The Crimson Throne. The room smelled of rot, not the natural stench of decay, but something thicker, heavier, like blood left too long in the heat. Dust hung in the stagnant air, stirred only by the fractured light that pushed through a cracked window. In the center of the chamber stood the chair. It was carved of blackened oak, high-backed and ornate, its crest crowned with barbed filigree. Once, perhaps, it had been a symbol of status and heirloom in a noble house, a seat of authority. But now, its seat and backrest dripped red, as though it had been freshly painted in gore. The rivulets trailed down the legs of the throne, staining the wooden floor beneath. Around it, the remains of others told a silent tale. Skulls lay scattered near the legs, their hollow sockets fixed in eternal mute screams. A knife, its blade slick with drying blood, rested near the throne as though discarded in haste. The chair was not abandoned. It waited. Jonathan Hale had not intended to come here. The village had warned him, old wives in gray shawls whispering in the tavern, children chanting rhymes about the throne that drinks. But Jonathan, ever the skeptic, scoffed. He had come to this forgotten place in search of relics, antiquities he could sell to collectors in the city. The manor at the edge of the moors was said to have belonged to the Ravenscroft family, long dead, their bloodline extinguished by whispers of madness and murder. He broke the lock at twilight, torch in hand, dust curling upward as the ancient door gave way. The manor was a ruin, its walls sagging, its halls drowned in shadow. Still, he pressed onward, deeper and deeper, until he found himself in that room. The throne stood in the middle, as though the house itself had been built around it. Jonathan felt something stir in his chest when he saw it, a pressure, a faint pounding in his ears. He told himself it was fear or perhaps the stuffy air, but the sensation grew heavier as he stepped closer. The closer he drew, the more he felt as if invisible threads were tightening around him, guiding him toward the seat. On the floor lay the knife. He knelt, examining it. The blade was wet, impossibly so, as if it had been freshly used. And though the room was silent, Jonathan swore he heard the faintest drip of liquid hitting wood. He looked up. The chair was bleeding. That was when the whisper began. At first, it was only a tremor in the air, a faint hum just at the edge of hearing. Then it grew clearer, coiling around his thoughts like smoke. Words without a tongue, meanings without sound. Sit. Jonathan staggered back, his hand clutching the torch. His mind screamed at him to flee, yet his legs rooted him in place. He turned his eyes from the chair, forcing himself to study the room. Cobwebs in the corners. A portrait on the far wall. Its canvas slashed. The figure within reduced to smears of black and red. The floor beneath the chair was warped, stained dark with layers of something that had seeped into the wood over years. He forced a laugh, brittle and hollow. Old wood, old stains, that's all. But the whisper came again. Sit and see. Against his own will, Jonathan stepped forward. His knees brushed the edge of the seat. The wood glistened wet beneath the torchlight, though it should not have. He reached out, almost in defiance, and touched the armrest. Warm. His stomach lurched. The throne pulsed faintly under his fingertips, as though veins ran through it, as though it had a heartbeat. And then, he was not in the room anymore. Darkness swallowed him, vast and endless. He floated in a void where screams echoed from every direction, shrill and desperate, some human, some not. Shadows twisted into forms around him. Bodies broken, writhing. Their faces torn. Their eyes begging. At the center of the void was the throne. Always the throne. Upon it sat a figure. It was not a man. Not entirely. Its form shifted with each glance. Sometimes robed, sometimes armored. Sometimes naked and raw. Its flesh dripping like wax. Its face was never fixed, changing from one moment to the next. A king with a crown of bone. A child with hollow sockets. A woman whose mouth gaped impossibly wide. But its voice, when it spoke, was constant. You are chosen. Jonathan tore his hand away, gasping. He stumbled backward, falling to the floor. His torch rolled, its flame flickering dangerously near the dark stains on the wood. The throne did not move, but it dripped. Thick rivulets of blood ran down its arms, pooling at his knees. He scrambled away, but the blood followed him, running like living streams across the wood, curling toward him with impossible intent. He tried to stand, but his legs failed him. His body was not his own. Invisible hands seized him, dragging him toward the seat. His nails scraped across the floor as he screamed, the sound swallowed by the oppressive air. The knife. It lay just within reach. Desperately, he stretched out his arm. fingers brushing the blade. He grasped it and swung wildly, carving deep into his palm. His blood sprayed the floor. The throne drank it in, and the whisper laughed. Jonathan was lifted, though no one touched him. He was placed upon the throne like an offering, his back pressed to its slick surface. The wood burned against his skin, and the blood seeped into him, through him. He convulsed as visions tore through his mind. Every soul who had ever sat there, every scream, every last desperate plea. He saw nobles forced into madness, their minds hollowed out as the chair feasted. He saw peasants dragged into the chamber, chained and broken, their bodies drained until they were nothing but husks. He saw priests, kings, warriors, each brought low, each consumed. And now, him. The knife fell from his hand. He clawed at the armrests, but his flesh fused with the wood. He could feel his skin merging, his veins threading into the chair. He screamed, but the sound was already not his own. It was deeper, layered with 1,000 other voices. The chair drank, and it would never be full.
Crazy Sea Stories. If you like these stories, subscribe for more.
The Forgotten Man. No one remembered when the man first appeared at the edge of Hollow City. Some said he had always been there. A motionless figure standing in the misty boulevard where the skyline clawed the heavens like broken fingers. He faced the city as if waiting for something or someone. Hollow City wasn't always dead. Once its streets teemed with life. Flickering lights, laughter pouring from diners, cars honking impatiently. But that was before the fog came. Thick, unnatural. It rolled in from nowhere, swallowing buildings, streets, entire districts, and the people inside them. When the fog passed, everything looked the same, but not quite. Windows were dark, phones were dead, and no one ever returned from the areas it touched. Now, only that man remained on the boundary. A tall silhouette in a long, dark coat, backlit by the city's corpse-gray light. His face was hidden, but his shadow stretched unnaturally long behind him, curving like grasping fingers over cracked concrete. Rumors spread. The Forgotten Man, they called him. If you approached him, whispered drunken fools, you'd hear voices, echoes of the ones the fog had taken, pleading, weeping, warning. but no one dared aid close. Except Martin Graves. A desperate man, his wife Lila had vanished in the fog 2 weeks before. She'd left the apartment at dusk to fetch milk. She never returned. Martin waited for days. The police shrugged. No one goes in the fog. Friends avoided his calls. He knew what they all thought, that she was gone forever. Like the rest. But late one cold night, as the city groaned beneath the weight of the eternal dusk, Martin stood across the street from the forgotten man. Up close, the figure was worse than he'd imagined. His body seemed solid, but flickered at the edges, like television static. His shape wasn't quite human. The arms too long, the head too still. His coat hung like wet leather, gleaming faintly in the pale light. His shadow twitched when he did not. Martin stepped closer. His breath frosted the air. "Where's Lila?" he asked softly. "Tell me where she is." The forgotten man turned. Slowly. No face, just darkness under the brim of a hat. And then, a whisper. A dry sound like dead leaves scraping pavement. "She waits beneath." "Beneath what?" Martin gasped. But the forgotten man lifted an arm. A long gloved hand pointed to the city behind him, its skyscrapers stretching high, lost in the gloom, and then the ground beneath Martin's feet cracked. Thin, black fissures opened like veins. The street yawned wide, and the voices came. "Lila," he whispered, leaning over the pit. Her voice rose from the darkness. "Martin, help me. Please, cold, lost." Tears filled his eyes. "I'm coming, Lila." He stepped forward, and the ground swallowed him whole. Martin fell for what felt like hours, tumbling through blackness, weightless and screaming. When he landed, it was in a city identical to Hollow City, but wrong. The sky here was ash gray, featureless. The towers stood crooked, leaning like rotted teeth. Windows glowed faintly, not with electric light, but with a dull, reddish pulse, like the heartbeat of something buried deep below. And the streets, they moved. Pavement cracked and shifted as if breathing. Black tendrils, like the fog-made flesh, slithered across broken sidewalks. And in the distance he saw them, the Taken. Their faces were pale, blurred, as if smeared by unseen hands. They wandered aimlessly, mumbling fragments of lost lives. "Lila," Martin cried. A figure turned. It was her. Or what was left of her. Her hair hung limp and wet. Her dress was stained dark with something thick and tar-like. Her eyes were wide and hollow. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Instead, her jaw unhinged with a cracking noise, far too wide, and from her throat spilled the same black fog that had taken the city. Martin stumbled back, but the ground beneath him writhed, holding his feet in place. Lila stepped closer, the fog billowing around her. "Stay with me," she moaned. Dozens of figures emerged from the alleys behind her, other souls, broken and lost, eyeless and grinning. Their mouths opened in silent screams, their fingers stretched like knives. The forgotten man appeared behind them. Tall, impossibly thin, arms spread wide like a shepherd welcoming his flock. "You wanted her," he rasped. "You are hers now." Martin screamed as they fell upon him, tearing, grasping, pulling him down into the churning streets. His body sank into the living pavement, the city drinking him like water. And as his last breath fled his chest, his mind fractured, his thoughts fading, breaking, until only whispers remained. Now, a new figure stands at the edge of Hollow City. A man in a dark coat. Still, waiting. His face forgotten. His soul hollow. And the fog rolls in once more.
Crazy Sea Stories. If you like these stories, subscribe for more.